If you didn't know, American imperialism was so long. Surprise. So here we are in the Central America and the Caribbean islands now because we just want to take more. And we really don't want to sail all the way around South America every time we need to get to the other side of the world. And yeah, we've got that transcontinental railroad now, but shipping would really be a lot easier if we didn't have to go all the way down. So, what could we possibly do about that? We've got islands in the Atlantic, we've got islands in the Pacific, but we don't have an easy way to get to them. Lucky for us, in the mid 1800s, France had started to build a canal, and they had not been able to finish this project. And so we had made a treaty with Britain that we would work with them, and then any canal built in Central America would be jointly controlled by us and Britain. But that was 50 years ago, and things have changed, and we don't really care about Britain anymore. Now we don't need them. We are our own world power. And so we are going to pass a treaty in 1901 called the Hay-Pauncefote Treaty. I don't know if I'm saying that name right, which cancels out the Clayton-Bulwer Treaty from the 1850s that gave joint control to Britain and America. And this new treaty allows America to build the canal all by ourselves. All we need to do is have access to the land. And so our old friend Teddy Roosevelt decides now's the time to find a good spot to build the canal. And that little section of Central America that connects Central America to South America, that nice little isthmus of Panama, it's looking real canal-like because it's small enough that we could probably just cut through there. Unfortunately, Colombia owns that land. So what are we gonna do? That's not our land. Colombia has control over Panama, and Colombia refuses to agree to the terms that the U.S. wants in order to dig through their territory. I don't know what she's doing back there. Colombia would like more money, and they want more sovereignty recognition than what the United States is currently offering. And the United States does not want to give in to Colombia because Colombia is not a world power, and we are. So, what do? Well, like anybody, you're going to just convince the Pamanians to lead a revolt against the Colombian overseers and declare independence. So in 1903, the U.S. Navy goes down and supports a rebellion of independence by Panama, and Panama gains freedom almost instantly. No bloodshed. We did it, you guys. And in exchange for us being so kind and helping Panama, all the new government of Panama has to do is sign the Hayes-Bunawa-Varia Treaty, which grants the U.S. all rights over the entire 51-mile-long and 10-mile-wide canal zone, as if it were sovereign, and in perpetuity, to keep the U.S. protections from Colombia. Great deal, Panama. Thanks. So in 1904, construction begins on the Panama Canal because now it's ours, and it's ours as if it were sovereign and perpetually, because we just know how to make a really good deal, don't we? It takes 10 years to complete the canal. Hundreds of laborers will lose their lives. Again, not necessarily due to accidents, but because of tropical diseases. But luckily, George Goethals and Dr. William Gorgas are going to find a way to eliminate the mosquitoes that spread yellow fever, which will save lives. And a lot of Americans are unhappy with the tactics that we used to secure the canal zone because it was kind of shady, right? Colombia doesn't want to make a deal with us, so we just go and tell Panama, you guys should revolt and we'll back you and you guys can be free. Imagine if Hawaii had done that. Anyways, while the Americans are not that happy, the Latin American people are furious. And so, to pacify them, especially Colombia, Congress votes in 1921 that they will pay Colombia $25 million for the loss of their land. And in 1999, the U.S. returns the canal zone to the Republic of Panama. You see, we made up for it. It's okay. Meanwhile, in Cuba, we had given Cuba their sovereignty under the Teller Amendment when we went to war. back in 1898. Remember that Teller Amendment? Of course you do. But here's the thing. We never left. In 1898, we went to war. We helped drive out the Spanish, and then we kept our troops there. And we stayed there until 1901. And then we were like, you know what? Maybe it's time to go. But we're not going to go on our own. And so Congress makes the withdrawal of our troops conditional upon the terms of the Platt Amendment that Cuba must sign. If they want the U.S. troops out of Cuba, they have to sign the Platt Amendment. And the Platt Amendment is very basic. It says that Cuba can never sign a treaty with a foreign power, especially a foreign power that has ever impaired its independence. It is going to permit the U.S. to intervene in Cuba's affairs to preserve its independence and maintain law and order. And it is going to allow the U.S. to maintain naval bases in Cuba, including one permanent base at Guantanamo Bay. And so the Cuban Convention accepts the term in their new constitution, and Cuba becomes a protectorate of the United States under our control and oversight for many, many years. So, we were going to give them freedom, but we didn't, just like everywhere else. Now, once Roosevelt is out of office, our old friend Taft, who used to run the Philippines, he takes over as president. He is going to shift the focus from foreign policy and foreign interference to economic foreign policy. So Roosevelt had big stick diplomacy, Taft has dollar diplomacy, and essentially we are using our foreign policy to secure markets and opportunities rather than through weapons and intimidation. And dollar diplomacy is going to focus on the debt from the Central American countries, and this is a really good idea. We are going to pay off the debts of the Central American countries to all the people who owe them money so that those foreign militaries do not invade if those loans are defaulted on. And in turn, the Central American countries will all now owe that money to the United States. You see how nice we are? It's like selling your credit card from one to another. Now, most nations are not on board with this because it's not doing anything for them. Either way, they're still being controlled by somebody else. And so, even though we're focusing on dollar diplomacy, we're going to send our military, and Taft sends military down to Nicaragua. Nicaragua refuses to accept the loans, and so the U.S. warships are sent down with the U.S. Marines to pressure the government of Nicaragua to take this deal. Mexico is considering allowing Japan to intervene, and they're thinking about letting Japanese corporations gain land and economic advantages, where Taft then gets involved and tells Congress, you need to pass the Lodge Corollary. And the Lodge Corollary says that no foreign cooperation other than an American one can obtain strategic land in the Western Hemisphere. Isn't it amazing what our government can do for other people's countries? Then we are going to work with the Chinese government in China to help grow their railroad through international financing. And this meets with opposition from Russia and Japan, as they are both trying to push into Manchuria, and they don't want American interference in Manchuria. Taft also reorganizes the State Department into different divisions. So instead of just the State Department, now we've got the Far East Department, Latin America Department. All of these are going to be in the area of growing foreign policy expertise in each individual area. So there'll be specialized foreign policy. And Central America is going to remain a problem for the United States for decades. I mean, even today, like it was, Venezuela, we've got problems of our own making. And a lot of countries are resentful of America. It's not just Central America, not just Latin America. Across the globe, a lot of countries are resentful of America. And Japan is over there continuing to consolidate power and grow their own empire. And we will see that come up in World War I and later in World War II. And in 1913, just as Taft is leaving office and Woodrow Wilson takes over, World War I will break out in Europe within the next year.